So here I am at another Wentworth folly. I'm in the gardens actually this time. A beautiful, beautiful gardens which go back to the 18th century, slightly before. And there's the entrance to this, I don't know whether you can see this, but the entrance to this so-called bear pit, which is, this front is actually much older than the pit itself. The fabrication is much older. It's probably been taken from somewhere else on the estate. It's quite interesting because I've been to lots of places over the years and it's got a little bit of symbolism on it now, but it's kind of fading. But I noticed that there's the what look like the pine needles, which is something you get over in the Vatican, the court of the pine cone, and you've got double-headed Habsburg style eagles, which I've seen at other sites as well, which relates to the bloodlines and that kind of symbolism going back to the House of Hanover, and before then, you know, the Cosacsburg Gotha and the European bloodlines, not necessarily the so-called English or British bloodlines. But let's have a look. Let's go in here. It's quite interesting when you go in. I'll take you in with me. I'm going to walk backwards so you get the feel of it. It reminds me of a place that I went to down in Oxfordshire. A series of caves in High Wycombe. It's got a similar vibe to it. Actually, today the vibe isn't as dark, and maybe because it's a bright day. But you've got a standard pit in the middle. But what's interesting, it's called the Bear Pit because the bear was a symbol, of course, that related to hunting and keeping bears by the bloodlines and the royal houses as all across Europe. I mean, we made the bear extinct, didn't we? When we killed enough bears. Bears roamed the landscape of Britain up until the mid 17th century. So legend has it that, you know, and rumours, and there's no real fixed. It is kind of hearsay and rumours, but they say that this was what was used as a bear baiting pit. I mean, I couldn't say for sure what it was. I mean, I've read a little bit about it, and there's definitely something kept down here, or some kind of storage facility at least, anyway, because these little holes in here, these doors, there's definitely some kind of storage was in there at some point. But it does have a kind of a similar presence as those watching chambers that I've seen in, you know, in some of the locations I've been to. It's very small. So you could have somebody in here doing some kind of ceremony, maybe, maybe not. But yeah, as you walk through to the other side, you come out through the top of the arch, so you can see where the pit was below, and takes you out into the gardens, which has got a very nice sort of Japanese style to the garden, which I haven't really got time to show you, but it's a very, very interesting place. It is symbolic of the cave, the womb, the bear, you know, going into the pit. And it does make me wonder if there is some kind of bloodline connection with the royal families and what we call the bear. You know, the bear bloodline, which I've picked up in my book, Orion's Door, and I've also seen in other books, not least Stuart Sverdlov's work and his books about the bear bloodline. And bears and hairy humanoids symbolically seem to go back to some kind of ancient bloodline star race, which interconnect with royalty, because there was references to hairy humanoids in the epics of Gilgamesh, the Enkidu figure, who was kind of like the rival to Gilgamesh, who is kind of a Sumerian Jesus godlike figure. You can look that up for yourself. In fact, Gilgamesh features in that Celestials movie as a name, in name only, but there is some reference to Gilgamesh's powers. But the hairy race, the bear humanoid bracket Bigfoot racers, this is the garden, it's beautiful. They seem to interconnect with the royal bloodlines. So the bear baiting, just like keeping horses and other activities by aristocratical bloodlines and families, is all linked to this interstellar solar obsession with not really dominating other life, but dominating different aspects of it. Talking of Japanese gardens and the mythology and some of the rituals and folklores in Japan, they had an ancient tribe in Japan called the Ainu, which was basically the people of the bear, and I talk about that in my book Orion's Door, and how they worshipped the mother goddess, the bear, who was some kind of otherworldly and also terrestrial based deity, like a mother nature figure that lived in the mountain and came down from the mountain in their legends. So it's quite interesting how the bear was worshipped but also tormented and hunted, like I say, by the not only by the elite families, but also by various Native American Indian tribes also. There was kind of a form of reverence to be taking on the spirit of the bear, which kind of comes out every now and again in modern media and culture, doesn't it? Like in the movie Reverence. Sorry, not Reverence, what was it called? Is it Revenant? Yeah, the movie Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. And that kind of relates to the same kind of symbolism I'm talking about. One of the other symbols that relate to the bear also is the knowledge of King Arthur, or King Arthur, which is another word for the bear and the bear line, and relates to again the kings and the Merovingian kings, especially the hairy kings that were considered connected to the bee symbolism and the bear symbolism. They were called the Merovi, or the bee kings. And what do bears like? They like honey, of course, in the symbolism, and you have the bees representing the honey maker. And you can see in some of the symbolism where you've got the so-called 13 bloodlines symbolized as bees around the snake, and the bee wolf, which was another name for the bear, connected to all the stories of werewolves and things like that. Not always nice stories, some of them were horror stories, but it was all nonetheless the same kind of symbolism. There's also a lot of symbolism that relates to duality with the bear and the son of the bear, and the epics that are in the Indian Vedas, and the stories of the bear people and the monkey people, and the battles between demons, monkeys and bears, which is fascinating. You can look all that up. The goddess and the bear is important as well, because of the nature of the cycles of the earth that relate to the positions of the stars, not least Ursa Major, Arcturus, the bear shepherd, Orion, which I've talked about in my other book, in my work. So you've got all these elements that relate to each other. The bear is also a symbol of the hermit and the wisdom keeper, the focus on the shaman who goes inwards to find answers to the outside world, is all in the symbol of the cave and the bear, the goddess and the cave. You'll find loads of symbolism on that if you look hard enough in many different Aboriginal cultures. There's also the legends of Masha, the Russian folklores, which relate to the bear and the goddess. And I wonder whether Goldilocks and the three bears is connected to that Russian folklore. I think it is. And you know, the story of the Pleiadian star system turning into 7 maidens as they were pursued by a giant bear are all about stories that relate to the passage of the stars on one level, and they're also connected to stories that relate to these interstellar ancient races that would have interacted with the native populations, especially in the time of the giant, the epoch I call the Age of Orion in my book, the time of the giants, where some of the giants were bear-like, you know, like Beowulf in the Scandinavian mythology. So that's quite fascinating as well. All of these things interconnect, which leaves the challenging question: do bears shit in the woods? Well, of course they do. Where else would they? Stupid question. Oh, and one other thing is in terms of Orion symbolism, Artemis, the so-called wife of Orion, and also the goddess that in the Greek myths led to the downfall of Orion, which is a moon goddess. Artemis was also known as in some traditions, as a bear. And Orion, in that sense, with the giant Orion from the time of the giants, with the giant bow, was also the hunter of bears. And you get that in the in various myths and symbols. It's all in my book. Well, and other places, of course. Oh, and there goes a song thrush. I haven't seen one of them for a while. Best time of day this, when the sun is going down. Thinking of bears and walking through the fields. Glad to have you with me, in spirit. Until the next time. See ya.